Hi, everyone. Welcome to another Page I Love. This is Kevin Sharp, and today I'm joined by writer Kelly Sue Deconnick. Kelly Sue, it is great to have you on Comic Art Live. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Well, this is a plot twist because you have chosen a title that is most always associated with one artist, and instead today we're talking about a different artist on that title. Why don't you tell us the comic, the issue number, and most importantly, whose work we're going to be looking at today?
This is the new Teen Titans 1980s run. The issue that we're talking about is issue 12, which was 1985. And the artist is a gentleman by the name of Stan Walk. So we're looking at issue 12, page 21. Boy, I have to kind of set this up and say, boy, was it stressful choosing, the different criteria that you could use. There's like a million different options here. So I ended up going with this page.
Well, why
It's,
don't we start with, if we could, before we dive in the
yeah,
page, if we start with where you would have first seen this, because back in the 80s, we had the two concurrent New Teen Titans books running. Was this something you would have read as a back issue or in a collected edition, or where would this have crossed your attention first?
okay. So on my way home from school, I walked by a used bookstore that I do not remember the name of, probably 3 days a week in there. I desperately loved that place. They were mostly paperbacks, but they had a box of comics on the floor by the register. And I think everything in there was 10 cents. And that was where I got a ton of the Marv Wolfman run. I'd read comics for as long as I could remember. This is the first time I remember looking at who made the comic. And Marv Wolfman was the name that I consistently was coming back to as someone whose work that I liked. And you can't forget a name like Marv Wolfman, you know? Also, the paper that it was printed on was heavily saturated, and the colors were incredibly vibrant and felt thicker and unlike anything that I'd ever seen in a comic before. And then we come to this page, which I think is the first time I'd noticed a composition. And it's funny because it is a page that I love, but I actually have kind of mixed feelings about it as far as my assessment of the craft and is this the best storytelling choice. I don't know, but it glued itself to my brain in a way. I remembered the composition flipped. I remembered him looking to the right.
When you're looking at it now as somebody who has written, obviously, her fair share of pages for a variety of different styles of artists to realize, what does this page do for you now from a writer's perspective?
It's such a peculiar page. I see some eye movement things I would quote unquote fix. Like, I don't think the tracking is intuitive or easy. What an incredibly pompous thing I'm about to say, but as a mature comic professional, I'm not sure I would call this page a success. The panel that's placed over where the mouth and nose would be, it bothers me that it goes over the nose. I don't know why that bothers me compositionally, but it feels like it's affecting his breathing in some way that doesn't make sense. It's a little text heavy, although I will say that this is not text heavy for the time. It's only text heavy compared to modern comics. But all the same, there's something really terrific about it just because it's so unexpected. The issue is it's a very by the book whodunit, I guess. It's not a story that begs to be told in comics. And so I think he was probably entertaining himself and trying to think of interesting and unexpected things to do in place of traditional comics action. I must have read this 40 years ago and I still remember it. So you did it. I mean, you think who else was associated with the Titans at that time? Perez and Garcia Lopez. Holy cow. So Stan Walk is not a name that you hear bandied about a lot He did a ton of work. And he worked as an inker as well as a penciler. He's a comic guy. This page stayed glued to my brain for something like 40 years. So, job well done, friend.
And that may be the highest compliment any of us can give to any piece of art. Kelly Sue, please let the viewers know anything that you have out at the local comic store or that can be found online, or anything you have coming out, wherever you'd like to direct their attention.
Speaking of artists that I love, uh, Emma Rios's Vault edition of Pretty Deadly Book One is in stores March of this year. Black and white, those oversized artists edition books where you can really get in there and see all of the beautiful, beautiful work. It's unlettered, so it's just the art. And Emma is really, really phenomenal. And it is worth studying her compositions as well as just her draftsmanship. So that I think is the thing that I'm most excited about. I also have at the end of the year a new creator owned book, but that has not been announced yet. So I will have to leave it at that.
Thank you again so much for joining us on Comic Art Live.
Thanks, Kevin.